I used to think I was just tired. That's how it always starts, right? You work hard, you get a little stressed, and your body starts talking back. You get headaches. You forget things. You wake up feeling like you haven't slept. I figured it was just life catching up with me. I was 38. My name's Christopher, but my friends call me Chris. I'd been married for 6 years, and I thought I had everything a man could want. Every morning my wife would kiss me on the forehead and hand me my coffee before I left for work. She always smiled, that soft, calm kind of smile, the kind that makes you believe everything's okay, even when it isn't. I never questioned it. Why would I? She was the best thing that had ever happened to me, or at least that's what I told myself. We lived in a quiet neighborhood, the kind where everyone waves at each other but minds their own business. I worked in finance, had a decent job, nothing flashy, just enough to live comfortably, go on the occasional vacation, buy nice gifts for her birthday. She was always grateful, always warm, or at least, that's how I remember it. On Sundays, we'd make pancakes together. It was our thing. I'd do the mixing, she'd flip them. We'd laugh about how she always burned the first one. We had traditions, little routines that made it all feel solid, real, safe. Looking back now, I don't know when the pretending started. I don't know when the smiles stopped being real. Maybe they never were. But back then I believed in us. I believed in her. And that belief, that blind trust, that's what almost killed me. The first time I noticed something was off, it was so small I almost didn't catch it. She forgot to say goodnight. That was it. Just a quiet moment, a break in routine. We always said goodnight, even when we were tired, even when we were annoyed. It was just something we did. But that night she turned off the light and rolled over without a word. I laid there, eyes open, waiting for something. Nothing came. The next day, she was back to normal, smiling, laughing, asking me how I slept. I said fine. I didn't mention the night before, it felt silly. But that little moment stuck with me, like a thread hanging loose on a sweater. You tell yourself it's nothing. You try not to pull on it, but it's there. A few days later, I came home early from work. Traffic was light, meetings got cancelled, so I figured I'd surprise her. I opened the door and she looked startled, not scared, just surprised, like she didn't expect me to be there, like she'd been caught doing something even though I couldn't see what. She smiled, kissed me on the cheek, and asked how my day was. But her eyes were somewhere else. She was fidgety. She didn't ask me to sit down, didn't offer me anything. It was like I'd interrupted something invisible. I started to notice more of those moments. Her phone was always on silent. She started taking it into the bathroom, holding it close to her side. I asked her once, jokingly, "What's so secret?" She just laughed and said, "You know how group chats are, nonsense all day." I smiled back. But inside, I didn't laugh. At night, she started going to bed before me. She used to wait. She used to fall asleep on the couch while we watched something together. Now she'd say she was tired and disappear upstairs. I'd sit there, alone, pretending not to notice the gap widening between us. And then there were the gym sessions. She started working out more, which I thought was great. She said it helped with stress. I believed her. But she started dressing differently, more careful, more effort. I didn't say anything. You don't want to seem insecure. You don't want to admit you notice, but you do. I'd ask how her sessions went and she'd just say, "Fine," and change the subject. That word started becoming a wall between us. Fine, always fine. Something had shifted. I couldn't explain it, but I felt it, like standing in a house you've lived in for years and suddenly realizing the floorboards creak in a way they never did before. Something was different. I just didn't know what yet. It started with a headache, just a dull throb behind my eyes that wouldn't go away. I blamed the screen time. I worked long hours, stared at numbers all day. It made sense. I took some painkillers and kept going. But then it came back the next day, and the day after that. Always around the same time, right after lunch, I told my wife about it. She looked concerned, told me I probably needed to relax more. She even started packing lighter lunches for me. More fruit, less junk. I appreciated it. I told myself she was just looking out for me. Then came the nausea. Nothing major at first, just a queasy feeling that would pass after a while. I thought maybe I was getting older, maybe my stomach wasn't what it used to be. But the headaches got worse. They'd knock me out in the middle of meetings. I'd sit there, eyes half open, trying to focus while everything spun. I started keeping water with me all the time, skipping meals, changing my routine, anything to stop feeling like this. But nothing worked. And then I started forgetting things, simple things, like where I parked my car, what day it was. I'd walk into a room and forget why I was there. One time I left the stove on, another time I drove to work and couldn't remember the drive. It scared me. I thought maybe something was seriously wrong. A tumor, maybe, some kind of neurological thing. I made an appointment, got blood work done, scans. The doctor told me everything looked fine. I should probably just take it easy. My wife was supportive, at least that's how it looked. She held my hand when I got the results, said she was relieved, told me we'd get through it together. She made me tea that night, sat beside me while we watched something on TV. I don't remember what it was, but the next morning, I woke up dizzy. My mouth was dry. My head felt like it was cracking open from the inside. I stumbled into the bathroom and just sat there on the floor, trying not to pass out. She walked in, looked down at me, and said, "You probably didn't sleep well." I nodded. But inside, something was starting to grow. A thought I didn't want to think. Because every time I ate at work, I felt better. And every time I ate at home, I felt worse. I went to 3 different doctors in 1 month. Each one told me the same thing. "Your tests look normal. Maybe it's stress. Try to get more rest." I'd nod, thank them, go home, and feel worse. I started to think I was going crazy, like maybe it really was just in my head, but I didn't feel stressed, I wasn't anxious, I wasn't depressed, I wasn't anything really, just tired. Tired all the time for no reason. And then the pain started showing up in new places, my joints, my back, my stomach. It was like my body was breaking down piece by piece. I'd sit on the couch after dinner and feel like I couldn't move, just drained, heavy. Sometimes I'd fall asleep right there, not even realizing I had. One time I woke up and couldn't remember what day it was. My wife said I needed vitamins. She started making me smoothies in the morning. She said they'd help. I drank them. What else could I do? But the more I trusted her, the worse I got. And still, I didn't question it. I couldn't. I was sick. She was helping me. That's what love looked like. There was a day, just an ordinary Wednesday, when I was sitting in the waiting room of another clinic, and I looked around at all the people there. Some of them looked worse than me. Some of them were smiling, holding hands, reading magazines. I felt alone. Not because no one was there with me, but because no one could explain what was happening to me. I started writing things down. Symptoms, what I ate. When I felt better, when I felt worse, I made notes like I was investigating my own life. And I noticed something. The days I skipped breakfast, I felt a little clearer. The days I ate out for lunch, I didn't get the stomach pains. It didn't make sense. It was just food. Normal food my wife cooked every night. She packed my meals. She cared. She always cared. But something didn't add up. And the part of me that didn't want to believe it was the same part that kept hoping I'd find a real diagnosis. Something simple. Something with a name. Something that could be treated. Because the only other explanation was something I wasn't ready to face. Not yet. Her phone lit up in the middle of the night. I wasn't asleep yet, so I saw it. Just a quick flash. A name I didn't recognize. I didn't touch it, didn't read the message, but I saw the smile on her face when she looked at the screen. That kind of smile you don't fake. She turned away quickly like she didn't want me to see it. The next morning, I asked about it. I kept it casual. "Who's Mark?" She didn't miss a beat. "Oh, he's just my trainer, from the gym." She smiled, kissed my cheek and walked away. Like it was nothing. Like I was stupid for even asking. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something about the way she said it stuck with me. There was no pause, no confusion. Just a perfect answer, ready to go. And that's when I realized I didn't know much about her new life at the gym. She was spending hours there now. Morning classes, evening sessions, weekends. I'd ask how it was going and she'd say good or hard or tiring, always short answers, no details, nothing to hold on to. I drove past the place one day. I wasn't trying to spy. I just happened to be nearby. Her car was there. I parked across the street and waited. 30 minutes went by, an hour. Then I saw her come out, laughing. With him, the same guy from the message, tall, muscular, confident. She touched his arm when she said goodbye. He smiled in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't even mention it. I just watched her move around the kitchen, humming softly, like nothing was wrong. She made dinner. I ate in silence. I kept telling myself it was probably innocent, just a harmless friendship. People connect over fitness, right? It's normal. She was just being social. I repeated those words in my head like a prayer. But the truth was loud, even when I tried to ignore it. She was slipping away, and I didn't know what hurt more, the fear that she was cheating, or the fear that somehow all of this was connected. The sickness, the lies, the distance. I just couldn't say it out loud yet, because saying it made it real. There was a morning I couldn't get out of bed, not because I didn't want to, because I physically couldn't. My body felt like it had turned to stone. My limbs were heavy, my mouth was dry, my head was pounding. I laid there staring at the ceiling, wondering how it had gotten this bad. I called in sick to work. She brought me tea, said I probably caught something, kissed my forehead and told me to rest. But the way she said it didn't sit right with me. It felt scripted, like she'd rehearsed it. That whole day I didn't eat. I didn't trust myself to keep anything down. And strangely, by evening I started to feel a little better. Not great, but better. Just clear enough to start thinking. I started going over the last few months in my head. The headaches, the nausea, the blackouts, the memory lapses, the doctors with no answers, and her. Always there, always watching, always one step ahead of what I needed. At first, that felt like love. Now it felt like control. I remembered how she'd always insist I eat before leaving the house, how she'd get annoyed if I skipped breakfast, how she'd call me in the middle of the day just to ask if I'd finished my lunch. And when I told her I hadn't, she'd get quiet. It hit me all at once. The pain started after the smoothies. The stomach aches came after the lunches. The blackouts followed the dinners. The days I didn't eat her food, I felt clearer. And that scared me more than anything else. Because if that was true, if this wasn't random, if this wasn't medical, then the person sleeping beside me, the one smiling across the dinner table, wasn't just lying to me. She was doing something far worse. I wasn't ready to believe it yet, but I also wasn't ready to ignore it anymore. I started pretending to drink the smoothies, pretending to eat the meals, pretending I didn't notice the strange taste in the tea she made every night. I'd pour it out when she wasn't looking, flush it, hide it, say I wasn't hungry, say I was full from lunch. She always smiled and nodded, but I could see something behind her eyes, like she knew, or at least suspected I was catching on. That's when she started watching me closer. She asked more questions, where I went, who I talked to, if I was feeling any better, and every time I said yes, she'd say that was strange because I still looked pale, still looked weak. She said I should let her make something to help. I'd say no, and she'd push, just a little. I needed proof, not just thoughts, not just fear. Something real, something I could hold in my hand and say, this is what's happening. So I kept a piece of one of the muffins she made, wrapped it in a napkin, hid it in a bag, took it to a friend I trusted, someone who worked in a lab. I didn't say much, just asked him to test it, told him it might be nothing, but I knew it wasn't. While I waited for the results, I kept playing the role. I laughed at her jokes. I let her touch my face. I thanked her for every meal I didn't eat, every cup of tea I poured down the drain. I smiled, and inside I was screaming. Because if I was right, I wasn't just being hurt. I was being hunted. Slowly, quietly, from inside my own home, by someone who once promised to protect me. And if I was wrong, then I was losing my mind. Either way, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't breathe. Every hour felt like a countdown. Every smile from her felt like a threat. Every meal was a test. And the worst part was knowing she didn't think I knew a thing. The call came on a Tuesday, late afternoon. I was sitting in my car, hands shaking before I even answered. My friend's voice was quiet, careful, like he didn't want to say the words out loud. He told me what they found in the muffin. Not just one thing, multiple substances, small doses, things that weren't supposed to be in food, things that could cause exactly the symptoms I'd been having: headaches, nausea, memory loss. I didn't say anything. I just sat there staring through the windshield, listening to my heartbeat in my ears. He asked me if I was okay. I said yes, but I wasn't. I felt like the ground had shifted under me. Everything I thought I knew, everything I trusted, it wasn't real. I hung up and sat in silence for a long time, the kind of silence that feels like drowning. I thought back to the beginning, when the headaches started, when she changed, when the food started tasting different, and now I had proof she was doing it slowly, quietly, on purpose, and I couldn't understand why. We weren't fighting, we weren't struggling. I gave her everything, my time, my trust, my love. And still, she chose this. I didn't go home right away, I couldn't. I didn't know what I was walking into anymore. Every time I opened that front door now, it felt like stepping into a trap. But I had to act normal, at least for a little while longer. I needed time to figure out what to do because now I knew the truth, and the scariest part wasn't that she tried to hurt me. It was how easy she made it look. I walked through the front door that night like nothing had changed. Like I hadn't just heard the truth, like I hadn't just confirmed that the woman I loved was slowly trying to erase me from the inside out. She smiled at me from the kitchen, asked how my day was. I said it was fine. I asked what was for dinner. She said something new, something healthy. I nodded, sat down, watched her move around the kitchen like she always did. Calm, focused, like none of this was happening, like we were just a normal couple winding down after work. She placed the plate in front of me. I looked at it. Steamed vegetables, grilled chicken, a small side of something I couldn't name. She sat across from me and waited, watching. I picked up my fork, stabbed a piece of the chicken and brought it to my mouth. Paused, smiled, set it back down, told her I wasn't feeling well, that I'd eat later. She looked disappointed but said it was okay, said she'd save me a plate. Every word between us felt like a performance now, a quiet game with no rules. I watched her eat, watched the way she looked at me between bites, the way her eyes never really left my face. I wondered if she knew I knew. I wondered how far she was willing to go. Later that night she made tea, said it would help me sleep. I took the cup, held it in my hands, thanked her, waited until she left the room, poured it down the sink. Then I stood there, just breathing, trying to keep myself calm, because now it wasn't just about survival. It was about what came next, how to escape this without setting her off, how to protect myself without tipping my hand. And somewhere deep inside, I knew, whatever she started, she wasn't done yet. I began to watch her closely, not in a way that felt like love anymore, more like a prisoner watching a guard, every move, every word, every glance. I noticed the small things, how she checked her phone when she thought I wasn't looking, how she wiped the counters twice after cooking, how she never let me touch the leftovers. I started keeping my own records, times she left the room suddenly, what she was doing when I wasn't paying attention. I kept my eyes open for patterns. One night I found a bottle hidden in the back of the cabinet, no label, no explanation. I asked her about it. She said it was vitamins. I didn't push. I was scared, not just for myself, for what this meant, for who she had become. And then came the hardest part, the part I never thought I'd face. I had to tell someone, but who? I couldn't tell my family. I couldn't tell my friends. Not yet. So I reached out to a private investigator, someone who could dig deeper without putting me in danger. I didn't know what I would find, but I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't stay silent any longer, because the person who was supposed to love me was slowly trying to kill me. And if I didn't act fast, it might already be too late. I never imagined it would come to this. that the person I trusted most would become the source of my worst nightmare. But here I was, caught in a web of lies, fear, and betrayal that I couldn't untangle on my own. The private investigator told me he'd start digging right away. Background checks, surveillance, anything that could shed light on what was really going on. I gave him everything I had, pictures, messages, the food samples. Waiting was the hardest part. Every day felt like a battle between hope and dread. Hope that maybe I was wrong, dread that I wasn't. I kept pretending at home, smiling when I had to, talking when I needed to. But inside I was unraveling. One night I found her phone unlocked on the kitchen counter. I knew I shouldn't look, but I did. Messages from the trainer, plans, secret meetings, confessions I never wanted to read. It was like a punch to the gut. I realized then that this wasn't just about me being sick. It was about her wanting something else, someone else, and the poison was just the beginning. I needed to decide, stay and fight, or run before it was too late. Because the truth wasn't just dangerous, it was life-changing. I sat in my apartment staring at my phone, hands trembling. The messages I'd read kept playing over and over in my mind. Every word a reminder of how little I really knew the person I married, how easily someone can hide a part of themselves, even the darkest parts, right under your nose. I thought about confronting her, about telling her I knew everything, but the fear stopped me. Not just fear for myself, but fear of what she might do if she felt cornered. So instead I kept quiet. I watched. I waited. I started planning my next steps, reaching out to people I hadn't spoken to in years, lawyers, friends, anyone who could help me get out of this alive. The sickness had taken so much from me already, my strength, my confidence, my peace. But now, I was determined to take something back. I knew this wouldn't be easy, that it would take everything I had, but I also knew I couldn't keep pretending, because sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones we think we know best. And sometimes the only way to save yourself is to walk away. That night I finally confronted her, not with anger or accusations, but with quiet determination. I told her I knew, about the poison, about the lies, about him. She looked at me like I was a stranger, like I had stepped into a story I wasn't meant to see. For a moment there was silence, heavy and suffocating. Then she smiled, not a warm smile, not a loving one, but a cold, distant smile that sent a chill through my bones. She told me it wasn't personal, that it was just how things had to be, that she was unhappy, that she wanted more. I listened, not because I wanted to, because I had to. Because beneath the betrayal, beneath the poison, beneath the lies, I needed to understand. I needed to know how someone could look at the person they promised to love forever and decide to destroy them instead. And as she spoke, I realized something else. That love, when twisted by selfishness and greed, can become the most dangerous poison of all. And sometimes surviving means letting go of everything you thought you knew about the person you loved. I left that night without looking back. The house felt empty, but the weight inside me was heavier than ever. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing. Staying meant risking everything, including my life. I stayed with a friend, someone who didn't ask questions, someone who just let me be. I called the doctor, explained everything. The tests started again, this time with a new urgency. The truth was out in the open, and I wasn't alone anymore. Each day I felt a little stronger. The headaches started fading. The blackouts slowed. My mind cleared bit by bit, like sunlight breaking through a storm, but the scars were deeper than the sickness. The betrayal wasn't just in what she did to my body. It was in the broken trust, the shattered dreams, the life I thought we had. I realized healing wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't be quick, but it was possible. And in that possibility, I found a flicker of hope. Because even when the darkest things happen to us, we have a choice. To let them define us, or to rise above them. And I was ready to rise. The road to recovery wasn't straight. Some days I felt like I was moving forward, and others like I was falling back into the shadows. Trust didn't come easily anymore, not with others and especially not with myself. I had to learn to listen to my body again, to recognize when something was wrong without fear clouding my mind. I started therapy, talked about the pain, the betrayal, the confusion. It wasn't just the poison in my system I had to fight, it was the poison in my heart. But slowly, piece by piece, I began to rebuild. Small victories, a meal I could eat without fear, a night of sleep that wasn't haunted by nightmares, a moment of peace without the weight of suspicion. And through it all, I kept asking myself the same question. How did someone I loved so deeply become someone who wanted to destroy me? I'll never have all the answers. Maybe I never will. But what I do know is this. Survival isn't just about living through the worst. It's about learning to live again afterward. And that's what I'm doing now. One day at a time. One breath at a time. Because even after the darkest betrayal, there's a chance to find the light again. It's strange how life can change in a moment. One day you're living a story you thought was yours. The next, everything you believed is shattered, and you're left trying to pick up the pieces. I never expected my wife to be the person who poisoned me. I never thought the person who promised forever would be the one slowly trying to take me away. But here I am, still standing, still breathing, still fighting to reclaim the life she tried to take. I've learned that betrayal can come from the closest places, and pain can come wrapped in the sweetest smiles. But I've also learned something else, that no matter how deep the darkness, there's always a way forward. That strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting up every time you do, and this is my story. Not just of survival, but of hope. Because even when the ones we love hurt us the most, we can still find a way to heal. And that's what I'm doing now. Finding my way back to the light. This is the end of my story. Thank you for watching, and if you like this kind of content, kindly leave us a like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Thank you.